Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. All right, so hello, Jeremy. How are you today?
I am doing great, Samuel. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being on the show. So today we have Jeremy Laynor. He is actually the Senior Vice President of Global Sales for Providence Medical Technology. So Jeremy, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks. So, as a Senior VP of Global Sales, I'm in charge of our commercial team. And so from a day-to-day standpoint, my job is to put in place, a strategy for our commercial team to take our products, our innovation out to our marketplace, identify who we want to target, why we are targeting them, some of the messaging that goes along with that. And then how do we appropriately staff and really fund and build out a budget that, matches the vision and the goals of the organization, our CEO, our board of directors, and most importantly, how do we do that in an environment that, we have a lot of compliance and regulatory, situations that we've got to stay abreast of and follow and make sure that we've got the right team in place to bring this innovation and technology to our to our customers, which for us is orthopedic and neurospine surgeons. That's where we focus our time. We've got a solution for treating cervical spine disease. And we're very, very focused on a particular portion of that patient population, which we call the high-risk patient. Those are patients that suffer from comorbidities in addition to having multiple levels of cervical spine disease. And, so it's a really rewarding role. You're on call 24/7. There's no off as the VP of sales. Right. But I've surrounded myself with some tremendously talented people, and very fortunate to be on a team both at the senior staff level as well as my field-based team that are just pros, some of the best people in the medical sales profession. And they take their jobs very seriously. I take mine very seriously. And when we focus on the patient and our customers, we tend to do the right thing. So it's a great role.
I love to hear it. So, from your position, how often are you actually in the field?
It's interesting, Samuel. Pre-COVID, I'll answer it in two parts, because pre-COVID, there was my role in the field, and post-COVID or during COVID. Pre-COVID, I would say, and I'm a real lead from the front type of guy. It's important to me from a lot of the mentors I've had and my experiences to not sit in a boardroom or an office and try and make decisions that are, uneducated. The way that I can get a real feel for the pulse of what's going on, what's our messaging like, what are our reps dealing with from a day-to-day basis, what are our customers saying, how are the patients doing with our technology, what's going on at the hospital. I got to get out there. Right. I've got to be there. So a month would never go by where I wouldn't spend a couple of days in the field. Mm-hmm. There's months that I'm in the field 50% of the business days. So quite a bit. And then when we get very busy in our planning cycles in the budget season for the next year, it's going to obviously, lessen a little bit, but my goal was to get out in the field with all of our field sales representatives, our distributor partners, for sure every month. And, that was kind of pre-COVID. Now, since COVID's hit, there's been a lot of restrictions placed on our access, who's where, when. Obviously, travel was really restricted up until about a month or two ago. Yeah. So, I'm now just getting back where I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where I'm actually doing a lot of local Texas regional travel, but I have not ventured back out beyond the state of Texas at this point, but plan to very soon.
Got it. So, with that being said, with COVID going on, with your sales reps, would you say that they've still been able to go into the field just a little bit with depending on what they're doing, what procedures they're doing, or has it been pretty much stay at home until we figure out what's going on here?
Our reps have never missed a beat. So
Wow. Okay.
because of the procedure that we support, posterior cervical fusions, there's many patients that from the beginning of the COVID pandemic till today needed treated for a variety of reasons. And our technology was utilized by our customers. So we never missed a beat. Our team fearlessly and courageously, went into hospitals when the unknown was the unknown. And, I give them a lot of credit. People were getting on planes because they needed to get to a customer to support them. And the access for our team has been almost unaffected as it related to case coverage. Sure. Where it's really been affected is prospecting.
Got it. How are they getting around that now then with prospecting?
Yeah, so it's an ongoing challenge. We're doing some new things from a lot more digital outreach. We're doing Zoom meetings.
Right.
So physicians are becoming more accustomed to engaging with representatives in this format.
Sure.
We're doing a lot more, I would say, on the market lead gen side, outside of just organic calling at the field level. We're trying to generate interest, generate programming that will drive leads to the sales team to follow up on. So we're really kind of shift the onus of lead gen back on us in partnership with the field team. And, and we're getting some traction, starting to make some success, but it's going to be a long haul. Things are definitely changing.
Yeah. Things are changing. I hear from so many different leaders that, you would think that the healthcare community and providers would embrace this new technology and just try to make things work, but it's been a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah. Old habits die hard, right?
Right,
I mean, it takes a long time to change the way that people do things. And, I think our physicians are very accustomed to us being in the office with them.
Yeah.
Our team looks at x-rays. We do a lot of pre-op planning, and that type of engagement is what everybody's accustomed to.
Right.
And now with certain restrictions, that's not as viable anymore. And, I think, Samuel, you'll see over the course of the next several months and years that even case coverage will become not wholly virtual, but I think you're going to see a lot of enabling technologies are going to allow for field representatives to engage with customers at the practice level, at the hospital, at the ASC virtually. And they're going to be able to do it in a way that doesn't compromise patient safety. And that's not a bad thing, So, I think there's going to be some big advances in those areas.
How soon do you think that's coming?
There's stuff out there now. There's technology. We've talked to a few companies that have, platforms where, you've got multiple iPads in the OR, in a variety of different setups, and they've got their own cloud services where you're streaming on kind of a Zoom platform. And, we've covered cases virtually that way. Again,
Wow.
with our particular procedure, because there's a lot of image guidance, we do a tissue sparing approach. Many of our procedures are done, in a minimally invasive fashion. That it's really hard to see the C-arm setups and all the things that have to happen in the OR correctly for our procedure to work really, really well. It's pretty dynamic environment. So we haven't adopted it, but I know there's technology there now. So I would say that it's happening as we speak.
Wow. So the future of someone getting into this type of role could be from their home office with multiple iPads guiding a provider through surgery.
Absolutely. Wow. In certain procedures, I believe, because they're, cookie cutter, maybe the wrong term, but it's something that's the standard of care. Physicians are well trained on it. There's not a lot of variety. Even if the implant is a little different or the instrument's a little different, there's there's going to be a lot of standardization. So in those types of procedures, I think a representative, may not have to be in the OR. Now, I will asterisk that by saying I am not a supporter of the repless OR model, and that, you can hire at the hospital level one, or two hospitalists that then can understand all the different technologies that a surgeon may choose to use. And you get, that's not what I'm saying. What I think is really exciting is that these enabling technologies can augment and enhance situations that if you've got remote procedures being done in a place that you just can't get a field sales rep to, for whatever reason, there's a backup. Or, for some of these more standard procedures that are done every day the same way, maybe there's an opportunity to turn that into a virtual case coverage model.
Gotcha. Wow. Very interesting. Okay. So we're going to get deeper into this, but first we got to go back and figure out who is Jeremy Laynor. So let's take us back to the childhood dream. How did you even get into this space? Is this something that you always wanted, or did you have a completely different trajectory when you were a young boy, enterprising life?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, completely different trajectory. And I don't know if we've got time to even go through the pathway, but I'll give you some cliff notes. But, I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a kind of a small rural town called Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, born and raised in Pennsylvania, and, right from youth was just loved sports. That's where I found my passion, was just on a field. I played everything you can imagine, from, soccer, basketball, baseball, track, everything I tried. And then as I was growing up, really honed in on soccer and basketball, and then eventually played college basketball and had a real passion for the game of basketball. And that kind of led me down a whole bunch of paths that we can talk about. But
where did you play college ball?
I went to Slippery Rock University in Western PA.
Wow. And that's what is that? Is that D1, D2? What is that?
That's NCAA Division II basketball in the Pennsylvania Athletic Conference.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I was a point guard there, and had just a great experience at Slippery Rock, not just with sports, but overall it was a amazing time in my life to really spread your wings like college is all about. Really learn about yourself, and then trying to balance academics, I think, with athletics in college was a big leap for me. And it in high school it was pretty easy, right? And then you get to college, and not only are you go from being one of the best guys in the area to like you're just trying to make the team, and very, very humbling. And the same thing goes academically, right? The same thing went academically, and balancing those two things was a huge growth opportunity for me. And I studied sports management and business administration.
Sure.
I actually thought when I started, I wanted to get into physical therapy, and I was thinking, that made me my track. And I was always really interested in the sciences. So that kind of foundation was there. But, it was interesting. A lot of my family were teachers, and I had a principal and a professor, and my dad was a teacher. My mom was had done some part-time teaching, and aunts and uncles were teachers. And they said to me very young, listen, if you want to make money, don't be a teacher. It's a great job. But, I was very entrepreneurial. I was, had jobs from, I think when I was 10 years old, mowing yards to shoveling snow, to picking berries at a local farm, you name it. I was always trying to make money to buy things I wanted and save for later. And they just said, listen, you're probably not cut out for teaching from the standpoint of what your earnings are going to be. So why don't you look at business? Okay. And that stuck with me, and I was thinking, what can I do that, would allow for that? I didn't know medical device, pharmaceutical, medical sales existed. Had no idea.
So in college, you had no idea that it existed?
No idea.
Wow. Okay.
Never was mentioned to me. I didn't know anybody that did it. I had an uncle that was a physician, two uncles that were physicians, but never was brought to my attention. So my first track was professional sports. So I actually went and I worked for Major League Soccer when it first started.
Oh, wow.
Back in 96, 97, I did an internship with the Tampa Bay Mutiny in Florida. Yeah. And they eventually offered me a full-time role as a ticket sales representative. And I won't tell you what my first base salary was, but it was below minimum wage, I can tell you that.
Sure. Okay.
And, and I did that for a couple of years. It was a tremendous experience, Samuel. I mean, I learned about B2B sales. I was selling group ticket packages. I was going into businesses and, really learning the foundation to selling and it was a hard market. I was selling against NFL, Major League Baseball, and MLS had just come out. And, a lot of kids like soccer, but their parents didn't grow up with it. They didn't watch shocker in America. So it was humbling as well. But we did that for a couple of years. I ended up working for a sports marketing firm after that. We developed a national golf tournament that we actually ended up working with Playboy magazine.
Wow.
And it was called the Playboy Scramble. It was
Okay.
an amazing kind of time in my life. I was going back and forth to California. Some great things there. I was selling advertising tied to the tournament sponsorships.
Sure.
And then, I was at that point, I was probably 23, 24, where somebody said, "Hey, do you know about medical sales? Do you know about pharmaceuticals?" I'm like, "What is that?" And off we go. And that led me to Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health was at that point a Fortune 16 company.
Okay.
And they had just launched a division in their pharmaceutical technologies where they were building sales forces for pharma and biotech companies. And I think med tech companies that they had a product or a drug, but they didn't have a commercial team. So they would contract with Cardinal, they'd build them a custom sales force, they'd launch the product or relaunch the product. And then if it went well, they would divest, or that whole sales team would just get acquired by the company. And it was a really neat model. I ended up staying there for about 6 years. So I started as a pharma rep. I was selling women's health products, so estrogen and birth control, really just learning, great training, clinical training, the whole thing. And then eventually I got into management really young. I was managing a team in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina of 12 representatives. I had to hire them all, train, the whole thing. Probably when I was 24, 25.
Oh, wow. So you got a start into management very early into your experience with Cardinal Health.
Really, I was 3 years a rep, had got, promoted to a trainer, was in their management training track. And then an opportunity came up, and, I was probably very, I was inexperienced, but somebody saw something in me and said, "Hey, let's take a risk." And
That's
a
excellent.
chance.
That's excellent.
And
so
it was awesome.
Before you even continue beyond Cardinal Health, who showed you or even introduced you to medical sales?
I think it was actually my uncle, Jack Gildar. He was an anesthesiologist, and he was in Arizona. And he said to me, do you know anything about pharmaceuticals? I have reps that call me all the time, and I think they do really well. And I think with your sales experience now, you might be a good candidate. And I know you like science. And I said, yeah, it sounds great. And I started hearing about what they did and how they interacted with physicians. And at that point, it was just, oh, wow, pharma was a really a hot ticket item. Everybody wanted in. It was really, really competitive. You're talking about 99 to 2001. And, that's when Pfizer and Lilly and Merck were all building super, super massive sales teams to launch blockbuster drugs that we all have heard about. And, it was tough. It was tough going, but, I was very lucky to interview with Cardinal. I want to say they were one of two companies that I had sent my resume to. I got the interview and I got the offer. Yeah. And so, I credit my Uncle Jack. He opened my eyes to the opportunity. And from there, it was, I was just very lucky, to get the opportunity. I had a hiring manager that really liked me and said, "Let's take a chance. Let's go."
Excellent. Okay. So you're in Cardinal Health, you're in management now, you have a team. So what happened that you even found out about getting into Medtronic?
Yeah, well, so it was interesting. So I'm in, really kind of a pharma world, but we're doing this different spin because we end up building sales teams, and I really like the business development aspect of it. But now I know people in the industry and friends, and people are saying, "Hey, device is where it's at. Device is where it's at. Don't stay in pharma too long. They won't hire you in device." And I was like, "What? What is that stigma all about? That makes no sense. I'm super well trained, right? I sell every day. I see physicians every day. It just it boggled my mind. But, that stigma actually did run true a little bit. And we can talk about later how I actually didn't believe in that. And I made the transition, and I've hired numerous pharma reps since the time that I transitioned over. But an opportunity came up, and I think this is actually a really good point for maybe some of your listeners, is that, I was 5 to 6 years into this gig. It was a really good role. I had some upward mobility, plenty of upward mobility with a really, really big, good company. But there was something really enticing to this startup world, this medical device technology startup world that I got introduced to. And there was a company called TissueLink at the time that was launching or had this bipolar sealing technology for hemostasis in orthopedic, general surgery, a whole bunch of applications. I didn't know much about any of it, but it just, when I went and I met with the eventual guy that hired me, Jeff Williams, we sat down, he's in scrubs. We're at a Starbucks, and he puts this wand down on the table. He's like, This is what we sell. I'm like, what is that thing? Like, that's what you sell every day? He's like, that's what we sell. We go into the OR, we support these cases. I'm in total knees, I'm in total hips, I'm in spine, I'm in oncology. I'm like, wow. And it just, I mean, the excitement level for me was like, oh my gosh. But I was a manager at this point.
Right.
You know, keep in mind, you know, I'm managing a team of a lot of people and thought I was hot stuff. And
right.
this was a sales rep role, right?
Sure.
And I was like, well, okay. And the base salary was like a quarter of what I was going to make, you know, at my current role, but the upside, you know, was tremendous, just tremendous. So long story short, I took the leap. And as I look back, that was a really important move, because from an ego standpoint, the role and the title mean nothing. It's all about what inspires you and what you get excited about, and what the value you can bring to, you know, your customers and being part of another team. And that's kind of a theme with me is high performance teams. I'm a huge, that's my why, is building and being part of high performance teams that create ripple effects of positivity for others. Right. And I felt like this is a chance to be part of a team very early on that's bringing technology to physicians and patients that really need it. And this is my chance to learn what it's like to be in the OR. And I got in, and it was, it was amazing. You know, the next 6 years was, you know, just growing a market in Tampa from scratch to, you know, a multi-million-dollar, one of the top 3 to 5 markets in the country.
Wow.
Got promoted to a regional manager. They moved me to California. I got to build my own team from scratch in the West Coast, learn a whole new marketplace, go back to some of the things I learned at Cardinal now about building teams, hiring, performance management, you know, all those things that I kind of had a little foundation built off of, and then apply it in this new realm of med device, which was awesome. And we were going through 30 and 40% quarter over quarter growth.
Wow.
So for the next foreseeable, that 6 years was just a blur. And it went from TissueLink to, you know, a team of about 30 people to Salient. We changed the name. We were about 120 reps. And then by the time I left, we were acquired by Medtronic. I had been promoted again to an area vice president. I was running a team of, you know, 45, 50 people. The book of business was 40 million or $50 million. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but it was just an incredible experience. I was surrounded by really talented, high integrity people, from our CEO, Joe Army, down to, you know, the associates we had. It was just, the culture was amazing.
Sure.
And I saw that experience of launching a new product to a market to acquisition, and going through that was invaluable. You know, there's so many lessons I learned along that pathway, but it all started with taking a risk and moving the ego out of the way and saying, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? And why do I want to do it? What's my why?
So you know, I love that. What's your why? I mean, that's a constant theme that I see with everyone I talk to, and even in my own career. But let me ask you this, you know, you kept highlighting that you saw tremendous opportunity from where you were in Cardinal Health to jumping into this med device space and what it could be. Tell us a little bit about what specifically were you paying attention to? I mean, the money wasn't there because it's a quarter of what you were making, but what did you see that said, you know what though, 2, 3, 4 years out, I'm going to be in a completely different trajectory?
Yeah, it was interesting because I had a couple of friends, as I mentioned, that had gone over to the device space, some from pharma, some from other industries. And they were just talking about the type of interaction they were having. What was the day-to-day, you know, what was going on in their day-to-day versus mine? And, you know, and what I saw was they were doing a lot of the same things I did from a prospecting standpoint, talking to physicians, but then they would get to take it to the next level. Right. And what the next level was bringing some kind of technology into the OR, coaching and proctoring and really impacting the outcome of that surgery with a physician. And I thought that was amazing. Like I could really impact without being the physician. I can actually have an impact on the outcome of this patient and their family's lives.
Right.
And moreover, boy, the technology that could come out is really interesting, right? And the med tech device space, you could be in spine, orthopedics, brain, cardiovascular, vascular, you name it. I mean, it was endless. And it really excited me. And I thought from a career trajectory, if I can get into this startup world as well, that could be really interesting because there's always new technology coming out. If I can learn how to do that, maybe I can do it again and again and again. And that can be my, kind of my role is, can I be a commercial operator or eventually could I be the leader, a VP of sales? Could I be on an executive team? Could I be a CEO? Could I be, what's my approach to doing that? And that really inspired me because I thought the upward mobility and the opportunity to impact the business, the customer and the patient was a little more than what I was experiencing.
And that was Jeremy Laynor. Now, this was only part one. You heard pretty much his career and why he made the decisions he did to get where he is today. And it's good stuff, right? I mean, just to listen to how he really was passionate about the impact he would be making in the OR when a surgeon is in front of a patient. I mean, that's something that anyone that actually wants to get into a medical device OR-based position, they really need to be in that kind of mindset and want to make that kind of impact to truly be successful and not only getting into the role, but succeeding within the role. This was only part one. So I want you to tune in next week to catch part two, where we get a little bit more into the pearls of wisdom that Jeremy has been able to share with us from his career. And again, if you're someone that wants to break into the medical sales industry, whether it be medical device, pharmaceutical, genetic, molecular sales, then I want you to visit evolveyoursuccess.com. And there I want you to select Attain a Medical Sales Role and follow the path, take the assessment, get some insight into what you can do to develop better to get into the role, and get access to one of us to talk to us about our program, the Medical Sales Career Builder, a program designed to literally take you through every step you need to go from wherever you are today to getting yourself into a medical sales role. And if you're someone that's in the industry and you want to take your performance to the next level, maybe you're thinking, you know what, I really want to have an amazing first quarter next year, or I want to close out this quarter really, really strong, and you want to make some big moves in your position, then I want you to go to evolveyoursuccess.com and select Improve Sales Performance. As always, I do my best to bring you amazing guests to talk about their career and share pearls of wisdom with you. So make sure you tune in next week to part two with Jeremy Laynor. Thanks for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.